You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box. What on earth is he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. Oh, feel it. Feel it, you feel it?
It's a faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of the Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
Who are you?
I'm glad you asked that again. Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe. Now please, get off this planet while you still have a choice.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Earth Station Who. That's right, folks. One more episode left. We are down to the penultimate episode of Doctor Who Series 12, and we have Ascension of the Cybermen. This one didn't know what to expect, and I'm going to be very interested to hear what everyone thinks about this one. Should we have waited to do this as a two-parter? Maybe. Should we have waited to, talk about it till next week? Maybe. But we'll talk about this one tonight. It should be a lot of fun. And we got a great crew to talk about it. Joining us this week is the Mayor of Chickentown herself. Let's welcome Felicity.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Felicity. Welcome back to Earth Station Who.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
And, I know there's no chickens here on this side of the station. So I know it might be a little odd for you.
I'll get used to it.
I know. But you're a huge Doctor Who fan, and you actually just came back from Gallifrey.
I did.
And so we'll talk all about the trip to California in a few minutes. Let me introduce the co-host for this week, of course, Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy. Welcome,
sir.
I am glad to be here.
Really? That's good. That's first good sign.
I'm always glad to be here with you guys.
Well, yes, that's true. It is true. You've never said you hated being here with us.
Absolutely
you said you
not.
hated other things, but you've never.
and hate is a strong word. So we're not going to go. I'm not going to hate on anything.
I'm using a lowercase h for it, so it's okay.
I'm not a hater.
You're not a hater.
But yeah, should be interesting. I don't know. I don't know if we should have waited. If that would have made any difference whatsoever. So, but yeah, I suppose we can't avoid it, right?
Nope, we cannot. And speaking of not avoiding it, here's Mary.
Hi, everybody. It's fantastic to be here.
It is great to have you once again, my dear.
It's always great to be here. I'm looking forward to talking about this one.
Awesome. And so with Doctor Who winding up, it's, definitely building towards something. And, did they capture it this week? We're going to keep you guys at home on hold because we've got a few other things we're going to talk about first. That's just kind of rude of me, but oh well. That's just the way we are here on the station. So, but we definitely would love to hear from you guys. So please write us at earthstationwho@esonetwork.com. Definitely would love to hear all about, what your thoughts on this episode were. And, did it build to, get you really chomping for next week? Or you got going, let's put this out of our misery now. So I've heard both on Facebook. Trust me, folks. I've heard both. So it'll be very interesting to talk about. All right. Let's get started. Jump in with both feet. Felicity, Gallifrey, is this 31 that they had?
This was the 31 flavors of Gallifrey One. And
Excellent.
I, of course, am a longtime attendee. Broke my streak last year. I had to skip what would have been my 19th Gallifrey. And so starting on a new a new number one with this one.
They had to go to the back of the line. All the lines you had to.
You had to go to the back of the line. Yeah, treated me like a newbie.
Lose all your reward points.
Still a veteran Gallifrey attendee. It was just, it was a little bit weird going back after having missed a year, but I pretty much got into the swing of things.
So did they limit the amount of ribbons you could have and everything like that?
No, unlimited ribbons for everyone.
Okay.
Unlimited rice pudding. Just like the iconic Marriott Marquis Atlanta carpet, the semi-famous Marriott carpet from the LAX Marriott that many people loved was removed and replaced this year. I have to say it was a kind of a generic pattern, but it wasn't as ugly as the brown striped monstrosity we now deal with at Dragon Con every year.
Streak of hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's inoffensive, but just nothing special. And they were, of course, selling and raffling off squares of the old carpet. I felt like, we have the Atlanta Marriott carpet, a square of that in the house. So I didn't feel the need to add to it, but I did get a pin from someone who was handing out these little memorial square pins, RIP Marriott carpet.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's very sweet. So, we had Mark Heffernan on our show yesterday on Earth Station One, and he was there also. And so he told us a little bit, but we want to hear all from your point of view. What was your highlights and such?
So this was the first time that they've had a new series Doctor at Gallifrey, and it was Christopher Eccleston. So they really, went big this year. And I think that changed a lot about the dynamic of kind of the flow of the convention, not necessarily for the worse, but I feel like I spent a lot less time actually on the convention floor when I wasn't in the main hall seeing the main stage guests, just because they had a lot more people than usual lining up for autographs. That's not something I regularly do. But I know that people waited a lot longer than they usually would. And I think that I don't blame the convention for that. I think, the promoter kind of had Christopher on a pretty punishing schedule, and he's only human. So he did stick around after the closing ceremonies to make sure that he signed an autograph for everyone who wanted it. And, he was a class act all the way around. I think that they have some ideas for how to improve get the autograph procedure for next year, and we'll see what gets implemented then. I didn't hear of anyone, going away unhappy not having gotten their autograph. It just, it was a long wait for some people, and I just kind of avoided that area in general, which means I kind of spent less time on the regular, convention discussion panels other than the ones that I was on and maybe a couple others. I spent a lot of my time in the lobby catching up with my friends who I missed last year, and just the convention seemed to go by too fast. It always does, but especially this year when it felt like everything was pretty much centered around Christopher Eccleston, and not that that's a bad thing. I have to say, they when they have a main stage guest from the new series, they typically will do 2 interviews, and they ask that you only attend one of them to give everyone a chance. So I attended the first interview on Saturday evening that was done by Stephen Shapansky from Radio Free Skaro. I know he's a good interviewer. I know him personally, so I chose that one, and I'm very happy that I did, although I know that the Sunday morning interview went really well, and people were really happy with that as well. But I just think it was, to not to use a cliche, but it was fantastic. And he was honest, but also funny, and, grateful. He expressed gratitude for everyone appearing there. He hadn't been to like a dedicated Doctor Who convention before. He has started to do conventions, but more like Comic-Cons, where he'll have mainly signing autographs and taking photographs. So to have him for a full hour on stage interview, there was no audience Q&A. It was just all him and Stephen, and it was really a pleasure.
That's awesome. I'm glad, it took him a while to get to this point, because I know for a long time he didn't want to have anything to do with Doctor Who.
Yeah, and he touched on some of that, but nothing really that we hadn't heard before. And I heard some people, worried that he would be too negative. I definitely don't think that he was. I think he was honest, but also has come to appreciate kind of what he means to the fans, especially. And, he had a standing ovation as he comes out of the TARDIS on stage, and a standing ovation when he left. And just, it was really a pleasure to see. Obviously it wasn't recorded, but on Radio Free Skaro episode 730 from last week, they review The Haunting of Villa Diodati, and then in the second half they do a bit of a galley recap, and Stephen talks about kind of what it was like to interview Christopher Eccleston, so that people might enjoy listening to that if they weren't able to be there for the interview.
Awesome. I'll have to give that one a listen.
Is Chris doing sorry, Mike, is Chris doing Big Finish now, or is he still not doing that?
He's not. That's come up. He actually said, rather than saying he wasn't interested in, doing more Doctor Who, he said, actually, voice acting isn't something that he's really interested in. He really prefers, stage acting or TV and movie acting. Just voice acting isn't really, I guess, an area that he feels like he would be good at or is just interested in pursuing. So you never know, but I think for now it's a no.
Gotcha. That means
he does continue to say that he will come back and play the Doctor for the 100th anniversary of the show. So maybe I'll live that long to see it.
I hope we do. But, I think that would be pretty amazing, to have him wheel onto the, from the TARDIS.
With this shooting schedule, it's going to be 200 years before we get to that.
that is quite possible. I think, he had praise for the current series. And, really, even though I think his relationship with RTD broke down to some degree, he praised him for, bringing in a strong female character in Rose, and said that he really felt like that paved the way, at the very beginning to eventually bring in a female Doctor.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've heard that he is an amazing interview now, and he's been so gracious to the fans, and I love hearing it from you that everyone's been correct. Mm-hmm. With that. What other highlights did you have?
Well, I was also interested in seeing the new series companions that they brought. I didn't see Michelle Ryan, who I guess is technically a companion, even though she was just in one of the specials. I had a conflict then, but I did see Tosin Cole and Pearl Mackie, who had supposed to be coming for 3 years in a row now, and finally her shooting schedule allowed her to come to Gallifrey. And Tosin Cole he's kind of an ordinary bloke, or comes across that way, but I thought the interview with him went very well, and he was rather charming, and Pearl Mackie was just delightful, as I expected she would be.
I heard Tosin was very soft spoken though.
He was. I think he's probably not used to doing a lot of publicity. He kind of went into his history with acting, and he doesn't have he's still young. He doesn't have a ton of experience behind the camera, so it's all you get the feeling it's all a little bit new to him, but he was very funny and talked a lot about how he definitely did not explore the nightclub scene in South Africa when they were filming there. No, definitely not. Whatever you heard about that was not true.
That is awesome. Yeah. It's like Judy and I actually started talking this year that maybe in the next year or two, maybe think about going back to Gallifrey and experience it, because we went the one year that we met Mary. Mm-hmm. And that it was
I would
just
always
amazing.
recommend it. I think that they really put a lot of effort into putting on the best show that they can.
Well, especially here in the South, we don't really have, a true Doctor Who con in the Atlanta area. Mm-hmm. You have to go to Huntsville, Alabama for Con K, or down to Florida. And, so, Dragon Con's Dragon Con, of course, but,
right.
But it's not a true Doctor Who con. So that's, our thoughts. But yeah.
I will always recommend Gallifrey to anyone. And like I said, any minor hiccups that come along, like, the long lines this year, they learn from things that might not have gone as well as they'd hoped, and then they make improvements for the next year. It's not a complacent convention. They very much appreciate that. Mm-hmm. It's, a lot of people are there. A lot of people, as Sean said, this is really the first time they've had a guest that literally everyone wanted to see.
Oh, sure. But it's interesting because, I've always heard with Gallifrey, half the audience is Doctor Who podcasters. So
That is, you know what, they didn't have a dedicated Doctor Who podcast panel this year, but so a couple of guys that I got to meet in person this year, whose podcast I listened to, they actually staged their own podcasters meetup. And I was thinking of going to that, but actually wound up going to brunch with a friend. But I think that was very successful. And there definitely are a lot of Doctor Who podcasts out there, and a lot of people, doing little recordings here and there at Gallifrey.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah,
so,
I think that the podcasters inspire each other. You know, people start podcasts because they meet other podcasters there and come up with a kind of an angle on Doctor Who that they don't see currently being explored. So it is always cool to see people inspire each other in that way.
And that's the best way it could be, and it's the best sign of flattery is when you inspire other people to do what you're doing and everything.
Absolutely.
Which is pretty darn awesome. So cool. So you would rate it this year's con a success?
Absolutely a success. Can't wait to go back next year. Oh, and I should mention, registrations are going on sale much earlier than usual. It's actually this Saturday, February 29th.
Wow.
At noon Pacific Standard Time, so 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But last year they didn't sell out right away, and it took about 6 months for them to
really
get close to selling out. And of course, they're not announcing any guests till much later in the year. So I don't think that anyone who really wants to go will have a problem. But just something that you want to keep an eye on. If you can make that commitment this soon, wouldn't hurt to do that. But if you're interested in going, just keep an eye on the website, Gallifrey1.com, and their Facebook presence, and they will certainly post notices on social media if they're getting anywhere close to selling out.
That sounds awesome. I'm glad it worked out for you, and I'm glad you had such a wonderful time. And now you could put this as con number 1 for you.
Gallifrey number 1.
Exactly.
Plus 18.
That is awesome. All right, let's take a quick break, and we will then jump into Ascension of the Cybermen.
Hey, Adam Thomas.
Yes, Thomas Mariani?
You know how there are podcasts about bad movies?
Yeah.
And also podcasts about good movies?
Yeah.
Well, what if a podcast could cover both?
What?
Listen to Double Edge Double Bill, where a random selected yin and yang of a double feature is picked and then picked apart.
Now, who came up with this wacky idea?
Adam, we did. That's our show.
I'm learning something new every day.
Listen to us on the ESO Network and wherever podcasts are available.
Any ideas what we're walking into? This planet, this time period, and the very far future, immediate aftermath of the cyber wars.
Hey there, welcome back. Now it's time for Ascension of the Cybermen, and this one just was nonstop. It literally, from the very first cold opening with the child being found, and it's like Judy, as soon as she saw that, it was like, oh, it's the timeless child. It's gotta be the timeless child. And it's like, oh, just watch, see what happens. And there's more questions with that almost than that they could even ask. So, this one was interesting. It had new Cybermen, battle Cybermen, as they called them in the episode. It was kind of a continuation since the last episode where we had that, zealot Cyberman, the half damaged one or whatever it was. And then you had, the companions and Doctor, and 5 humans left in the universe, or in that part of the universe at least. So it was an interesting story. And what did you guys think? Let's just go straight out, and just jump in. I'm not going to go, Mike, what did you think? Felicity, what did you think? Let's just jump in.
This is the first current episode that I've been able to interview with you guys. I'm being able to discuss with you guys on the podcast. I've only done, classic series episodes, one very good and one very bad. And the good one, coincidentally, was Earthshock. So here's another Cyberman story. I liked it overall, but at the very end, I literally, message to my friends, what the F did I just watch?
Yeah, a lot
mainly
of people
because of
do
the
that.
aforementioned child whose story doesn't seem to be connected to the main plot just yet. And actually, it's funny enough, my first reaction to seeing this baby was not, it's the timeless child. I didn't really get that impression until the end, and I'm like, oh, okay, I think this is connected to Gallifrey somehow and not to the Cybermen, but you never know. It could be either one. I just feel like Chibnall really loaded too much into the story to hope for a satisfying conclusion to most of it. And he didn't even bring back Ruth yet, assuming that we get some sort of answer as to where she fits into the Doctor's timeline.
I
and
hope
of course
they
the
don't
Master
wait
has
till
to be
next
there
season.
too, because every time we have my other friends pointed out, every other year we have a 2-part Cyberman finale with the Master. That's just the way that the series seems to be headed now.
Damn, you're right.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That we seem to be having a lot of
This
Cybermen
is the third
finales.
one. Or actually fourth, technically, because you had the David Tennant one.
That's right, but no Master.
Yeah, true. But then you had Missy, and then you had Missy and the Master, and now this one.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I was impressed by it. The only thing that gives me pause, and this is kind of a continuing complaint I have with the Cybermen in the new series, I don't like the real emphasis on body horror. So when they had, the Asher, the half Cyberman, torturing making the other Cybermen scream, I'm just like, really, did we need that? I felt like that was overkill. We know that horrible things are done to these people in the process of, making them Cybermen. And I don't think that, I just find it a little too much sometimes. And I was a little disappointed that Chibnall leaned into that again.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And it was just like, that didn't make any sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, what? It's like, rise, my Cybermen, go. And then all of a sudden he started like drilling into it. It's like, what? It just didn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it as like, is he like somehow upgrading all of them or something? But no, it never went anywhere.
Right, they didn't look any different when he was finished.
No.
And if he's just awakening them, why should it?
Yeah,
why should it make them scream?
And why are they any? How are they any different? We just don't know. Do they have different capabilities? Do they, and is he? I mean, there's still. Again, it's the first part of a 2-parter. So I didn't expect anything to be answered here.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just a bunch of questions, more questions. But Chibnall does once again show that, he just doesn't really care about like logic or anything like that. The episode that we, after the Doctor makes the decision to, in the last episode, to give the Cyberman what he wants, then she declares, okay, well, now I had to do what I had to do. I made the decision. Now I need to go in the future and fix it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So she chooses the last part of the war to go and fix the mistake. I'm like, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like humanity is pretty much gone and devastated at this point. And then she shows him like, hey, I'm here to fix my mistake. It's like, that's just off. Like right away.
Too late. Yeah.
Right away, I'm like, red
yeah.
flag. Like what?
Yeah.
Like I don't understand that at all. Like that just made no sense.
The conceit was that she was following the coordinates that Shelley gave them, that he got from the Cyberium when it was part of him. But I mean, that was obviously kind of tacked on to the last episode, and I agree, it was not it didn't make sense as a place to kind of try to insert yourself and fix what you broke.
Yeah, you would think you would want to stop the war.
Ideally.
But I actually like this episode, or at least I'm willing to withhold, harsh judgment until I see the second two-parter. It's always hard to judge the first part of a two-parter. And it was very action-oriented, and there were a lot of secondary characters we didn't care at all about. But it got me hooked. It kept me going, and every time we flashed back to Brendan, I was like, "What the heck is going on?" I have no idea who this guy is.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And then when he was up on the cliff and facing off against the criminal, and he, got shot, and then he just woke up. It was just like, what?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously some kind of immortal who they, for some reason, I guess they erase his memory at the end of his life and make him start over again or something. That was unclear.
I got the impression, I mean, we honestly, it seems to be Ireland, but we don't honestly know if it is or if it's even Earth.
Yeah, I don't know if that was like a little callback to where the name Gallifrey was supposed to come from, just like an inside joke, or if it
and the Garda is the Irish police force,
and his dad and the other cop don't age, there's a lot going on there, and I'm sorry, but it's beginning like the first the first whole part of it is just such a rip off of the Superman origin. That it's just
that was odd.
A couple finds a baby and takes it in, and it's got special powers, that kind of thing. It just, I'm like, are they saying that, Gallifrey is the same as Krypton? Like, I'm just like, where is this going? Because obviously it's leading that way. I mean, if we didn't know, certainly throughout most of the episode, finally when they get to Kosharmus and he opens the portal, and there's Gallifrey, it's like, okay, well, and then, and it's pretty obvious, okay, this is where we're going. This is how it all ties in.
Yeah, I have to say I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that too. And the implications, I mean, it's hard to, I really don't want to speculate as to what this everything means yet, because, this is only the first part.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we know anything yet.
The implications, though, are not, well, I don't know. The implications are just not to my liking. So I'm just sort of like restraining,
I'm also, when Dr. Ruth was introduced, it kind of put me in mind of, you guys might have brought this up, or at least one podcast I listened to brought it up, but it took me back to the Cardinal Master Plan from the Seventh Doctor era, and kind of like implying that Hartnell onward is kind of a second life for the Doctor, and that he had a life before that as one of the mysterious founders of Gallifrey. And also the, of course, the brain of Morbius and the faces that they, at the time they meant to be previous Doctors before they decided on the 13 incarnation limit. But of course they were, the producers and script editors and behind the scenes crew of Doctor Who at the time.
The only thing with the whole thing, I could understand the whole thing with Ruth being before Hartnell. I'm cool with that. The only thing I have a problem with that is the TARDIS being the police box.
That is weird, and more people.
That doesn't really make sense.
I mean, I've heard other suggestions that she's between Troughton and Pertwee.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last week. That maybe the 6B Doctor.
Yeah, I've always hated 6B personally, because it was just, I don't know. I won't get into that.
Yeah,
so the War Doctor was born out of necessity because Christopher Eccleston didn't want to do the 50th anniversary special. And to be honest, if we get as good an actor as John Hurt brought into the world of Doctor Who, I have no complaints with that. And I think it really did add to the mythology. I don't like change just for the sake of change. And I felt that way about the Cardinal Master Plan too, just kind of, let's introduce some more mystery. I also don't really like the fact that Jodie might not be the first female Doctor. It seems to rob her a little bit of something.
Good call there,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I actually, one of the things I liked about this episode, though, was seeing Jodie's Doctor at war. I actually thought that was interesting, seeing how she would react to that and how she reacts. I also like, and it's being carried over from the episode before, of what she does when things don't go her way, because she's actually losing a lot in the last 2 episodes. Everything she tries is failing. And I find that to be an interesting dynamic. And I think Chibnall does better when he goes
exactly.
dark.
And she was dark most of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that. I also liked how they split the companions away from each other. And I thought that was a good sign too.
Well,
yeah,
sure.
I actually liked the way that worked. Whenever they introduce a whole bunch of, other characters, obviously, writers like to write their own characters, but this is the showrunner. Obviously we need, if we're protecting the last humans, we need to see those last humans. I just feel like some of it takes away from what the companions can do in the story, and we have 3 of them already. So it doesn't always...
That's been the big problem since, they started with this run, because almost every single time they introduce someone new as a character, you're like, oh, they're awesome. They would make a much better companion than any of the 3 that we have, because they haven't done their due diligence with the 3 that we have. I mean, in this one, they split them up. Ryan, once again, is not even a factor. Like, is he in this? Because you have to really look hard to find him, and because he certainly doesn't do anything.
No, he does not.
I'm not as down on Ryan as I think you guys are. I think that he has kind of outlived his storyline, and it made me mad that it took until like halfway through this season before we really get a significant backstory for Yaz. I wish that they'd given us the story of her, her depression and her running away from home in the first season, or at least early in this season. I think her development is really long overdue. I like all the companions, and I like Graham so much. Bradley Walsh is just
we all love Graham.
So entertaining.
Graham should have his own show.
I think that he should. I think he really should. Let's make never mind Torchwood. Let's have a Graham spin-off.
He almost does have his own.
Well, last season it was all Graham, so so all the time.
I do like, and they did this a couple of episodes ago, and I applauded them for teaming up Yaz with Graham, and I thought that made a really good dynamic. And once again, I thought it worked. They play off each other well. If Tosin's going to leave and we're going to be left with Graham and Yaz and the Doctor, I think I'm going to be okay with that. I think that actually works pretty well. I don't know how they explain having Ryan and not Graham, or one or the other, but still, I like the dynamic that they have. They seem to bring like the best out of each other.
I agree.
I thought like they were entertaining, and actually did something. Unfortunately they can't do anything like technical, right? So they can't really help the situation, but because of them, the survivors made it to the cyber carrier, right? Like that wouldn't have happened if they would be dead if it wasn't for them. So I did think that they performed a good service. Now they woke up all the cyber warriors, which was kind of dumb on their part, but like we all knew, we're like, don't, like everybody is like watching is like, don't go in the room and press that button. And they're like, they go in the room and they're like, what's this? They press the button and you're like, oh no, you just woke them all up.
Yeah, well, it was just a horror movie trope. Don't go down the stairs. Don't answer the phone.
I loved how Graham was the positive individual on that ship, not giving up. Yeah. And it was, it was awesome. And then I loved how he was flirting.
Yeah.
That was really cute.
Well, kind of. I think he was taken aback. I think she was flirting, but I think he was kind of taken aback. Like, I don't think he's been he's been off his game for a while. Like, but, so I thought that was a good dynamic because we hadn't seen that yet, really.
Yeah, I liked that too.
It was like, oh, Graham, you old fox, you.
Yeah. I think Jodie's great in this as the Doctor, of course, and then she has moments, but I'm kind of, I recently had, forgive me for a minute because this is going to and so recently I took it upon myself to watch all 13 seasons, 25 years of the Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot series, right? And there a lot of them are variations of a theme, right? Where somebody right in the early on, somebody goes to the Belgian detective and says, "I think my life's in danger," and he goes, "Really?" And tell me more. And then they do, and they end up dying, and so he has to solve who murdered them, right? And so you see that once, twice, or whatever, and you're like, okay, what that. But then you see it like play out for like 13 seasons, every other episode, and you're like, man, I am not going to come to this guy if I'm in trouble. because every time he goes, he insists, like, don't you worry. Like, Poirot's on the case. You're like, I will let nothing happen to you. Nothing is going to happen to you. And yet people are dying, right? And I'm really getting, and maybe it's because I'm sensitive to it because I've been watching that. But, now every time Jodie says, don't you worry, I'm protecting you, nothing's going to happen, I'm like, oh, there it is. Like, and sure enough, like, that's come to pass, like, a lot.
Yeah.
This season, and like once in a while it's it's okay, but you keep doing that, and I'm kind of like, I don't trust this doctor to protect me.
Well, I feel like that's happened throughout the whole doctor
to
era,
a point,
though.
yes, but I think she's
every
sure,
doctor
to a
has
point,
been
but
that
I think
way.
she's really getting, and even to this extent, where in this episode she looks at her companions and like, man, I really made a mistake bringing you, like you guys are not ready for this at all.
I mean, she did try to talk them out of it in the last episode.
Yeah, but like, we've seen doctors just leave people. Like,
yeah, that's true.
She could have done that. Like,
yeah.
she could have easily done that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot in this that I kind of just like. I can't say I love any of it. Although I will say that the Cybermen upgrade, the Cyber Warriors, all that kind of stuff, they seem less like plastic Iron Man-y than a lot of the ones we've gotten in the new season, new series.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're not all shiny for one thing.
True, but even the new shiny ones at the end look more threatening than the ones that that were in the 10th Doctor era.
Yeah, I never liked that redesign.
I agree.
A cross between the creepy ones from the 12th Doctor and the shiny, like, uber plastic ones from the 10th Doctor era. So I appreciate that. They're the cyber drones are kind of silly.
The floating heads, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, is there a human head in there? Like, I was like,
right.
Like,
why do you make it look like a head if it's not actually a head?
Yeah.
Bring back the cyber mats.
That was a little weird.
Flying cyber mats.
Yes. I mean, you could do a really cool, creepy cyber bat bird thing or whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think that was just they ran out of money. Like, we have CGI of the heads already.
Saw the heads flying and everything, I thought maybe they were like the kind of head that was going after Amy that one time in the Pandorica Opens, that opened up and was trying to get her head in there. I thought that would have been kind of cool, and you would have seen one of them get captured and then transform it. It would take the body over and transform into a Cyberman.
I kind of thought it was a little bit of a callback to, the one that Matt Smith was carrying around in his last story, right?
Oh, good old handles.
Yeah, handles.
Right. But in any case, I mean, and I didn't mind them. I just thought they were kind of silly, but, Doctor Who's full of silly stuff like that. So the cyber drones were there. I thought they were going to fly away and then, like, go back to their bodies. Like, I thought they were going to go connect. Like, I thought that would have been kind of interesting. But we already saw, like, fingers, like, float off from a character this season. Like, heads are just the next step up, I guess.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I did find it effective.
Go ahead, sorry.
I did find it effective and creepy when they came upon just the torn apart bodies of Cybermen floating in space.
Oh,
Yeah.
the ones floating in space?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was effective too. It was like Cyberman graveyard. It was actually pretty creepy.
I thought it was actually the cold opening with the Cyberman helmet floating in space, and then it went right into the opening, going through its eye and everything. That was pretty fun. I enjoyed that, and I just thought there was a lot of, cool, when you heard the things hitting the spaceship, boom, 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 and you thought, oh, it must be an asteroid field and everything, and they looked out and it was all Cybermen bodies and everything. That was pretty cool. Yes.
Yeah, that was well done.
It was definitely, atmospheric all the way through. I don't know if I'm going into the finale that optimistic that Chibnall can pull it off.
Oh no, not at all. I'm not there at all. Another thing I liked was, is it Ashad? Is that the half Ashad?
Oh,
right?
Ashad.
Right. I think he's been one of the best villains for 13 that we've had. The chemistry that they have when they face off against one another is really there. Like, I think, like, even more so than she had with the Master. Like, I think she hasn't had a lot of great villains to really go toe to toe with. And we had the scene in the last episode, but then in this one, there's that holographic image of him, and so they're kind of having this face off, and I'm like, and during that scene, I'm like, man, they really work well together, these two. And she really hasn't had an opponent like this. So I do appreciate that. I do like having this kind of leader of the Cybermen who's this rogue. I don't know. There's a lot to, like, I just don't understand how he's any different. I mean, I like the fact that she throws his humanity right in his face, and he doesn't flinch at all. He's just kind of like, this is what's necessary for us to evolve. And then is seemingly does that with the cyber warriors on the carrier, but it doesn't make any sense the way they do it. No.
Yeah, well, they don't make it clear.
Of course not.
If that's what's happening.
And you don't know what this evolution they're talking about or whatever. It's just like,
yeah. I mean,
I hope we get more of that, a little more explanation in the finale. But there, like I've said, there's so many things we need to tie up, and
it's not gonna. I can tell you right now, it's not gonna be tied up in the finale. Like, there's gonna be stuff that's gonna leak out into the next season. So we're gonna have to wait another, whatever it is, year.
Do we know for sure there's gonna be a New Year's special again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, my understanding is yes.
They've already filmed it, and it's a certain extermination pepper pot creatures.
Not again.
Just saying that.
I'd be fine doing without the Daleks for a little while.
I know, but it's it's 2 years. So, God forbid we go 2 years without seeing the Daleks. So it's going to be the New Year's special. So I don't know if it's going to empty out into the New Year's special, or I don't think everything is going to be answered next week. I don't want to see.
Well,
I don't want to see.
There's an awful lot going on
next week.
Well, I want something. I want a resolution to at least a story. Like, I don't want it just to hang out like, oh, it's just another chapter.
Yeah, I want each storyline to be progressed, if not solved. So I want
the Cybermen story to be over.
Cybermen story should be concluded, but I want to learn something more about Dr. Ruth and something more about the Timeless Child and how that ties in.
It's funny, every time someone says Dr. Ruth, I think the short Jewish woman.
Of course.
Well, that's why I call her Dr. Ruth.
Of course.
I think we've been calling her Ruth Doctor.
Okay. So, I've heard Bruce Doctor or Fugitive Doctor.
Just so we know there's no confusion that this is like about sex education.
Right.
Exactly. Hello, Colin.
How do we know? They haven't told us yet.
And then, as if like, okay, so I'm enjoying it to an extent, and there's some things I'm concerned about and everything. And then, Gallifrey shows up at the end in the portal, And at this point, I'm like, okay, is it just showing up for her? Or does the portal go different places depending on who approaches it? Or is it always going to ruin Gallifrey? Because that opens up a whole big question. And horror will say, the Master leaps up and then says, as if it wasn't bad enough, like the first episode of the year, where the season where he goes, everything you know is a lie. No, we have to double down on that because we end with everything you know is about to change forever or whatever. And I'm like, oh, geez, like stop overplaying this.
Yeah, I do not like this Master. He overplays everything. It drives me insane.
I like him, but he's definitely a step backward from.
I mean, I like the actor. It's nothing against him. But I don't like the way it's written. And I don't like that it just seems more like campy Master to me. And we've been there, done that.
Yeah, there's a place for campy Master, but maybe not. Like you said, maybe we've gotten past that. I think it was implied that the portal is different for everyone. It's an escape to somewhere else, but not necessarily.
I could see that.
Because I think Ko Sharma's was surprised when it opened up to Gallifrey. He's like, "That's never happened." I don't know. Does he actually say that? That's never happened.
He says that about some. Yeah, he says. It's more maybe about kind of the reaction of the.
Because I did see some speculation from some folks saying that, so all the human survivors are the founders of Gallifrey, and I'm like, that's dangerous. Don't even joke about that, because that is not gonna go over well if that's what Chibnall is trying to introduce here.
Yeah, I don't think that that's a connection, but I think that the timeless child apparently being, on Earth, whether he originated there or not, is some sort of link between Earth and Gallifrey. Hopefully this goes over better than I'm half human on my mother's side.
Don't go there. No, and I was reading on a couple different websites earlier today, and some of the speculation and some of the really stupid things. And I was like, oh, please don't be true. Please don't be true. Someone said, I read this on Reddit and blah, 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 blah. And it's like,
I deliberately didn't. I didn't listen to any other podcasts about this episode, and until I didn't want to listen until after I talked to you guys about it. So,
well, of course,
yeah. I did the same thing, and I just, I'm just opening but the implications, because that it's not very clear, is dangerous, especially for a community that just loves to speculate over every single little prop and frame, right? So you have to be, really careful with that sort of thing.
Well, one of the things I didn't understand is why didn't the Doctor go back to her TARDIS? Even when.
Well, she kept saying
something
she couldn't get back to it.
It was so far away, but then when they captured the cyber ship, it's like, why not just go to the TARDIS? Yeah,
the TARDIS is always as inaccessible as it needs to be for plot purposes.
Yeah, but it just didn't make sense.
Exactly.
Whatever,
there's a lot of stuff where Chris is moving pieces and he's forcing pieces to go to certain places that they have to be, rather than it's organic. That's what this feels like a lot too. That he's putting these pieces in places that they have to be there, and he's not really explaining it very well as to why they're there. In a lot of the cases, it doesn't make any sense. I don't think anybody is acting out of the Team TARDIS. I don't think anybody's acting particularly out of character. So I will give him that. It's not like he's rewriting everybody.
Ryan doesn't even have a character, so it's okay.
Ryan is pretty much just. I mean, they leave him behind and they don't even realize it, right? Like they don't realize until they're on the ship. Like, wait, we're missing somebody. Oh, right.
Yeah, that guy. What is his name?
And and fortunately the Doctor shows up, and and then he just disappears on the ship somewhere. We don't really, I don't even think he doesn't add anything to that. As a matter of fact, I don't even remember seeing him after once they land.
Well, they give Ethan more
Exactly.
to do than Ryan, the
once
secondary
again,
character.
looks like someone who could be an interesting companion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whiz
I mean,
kid.
he can rewire stuff better than she.
Yeah.
Oh, and that was awesome. I loved it when rewiring the cyber ship and trying to jumpstart. Yeah. And she was like, "Oh, I used to do this all the time," and he just went, and it was like, "Yeah, get out of the way.
Get out of the way. I know what to do.
I've done this since I was 4." It's like, oh wow. So yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and when we do lose people, because obviously the Cybermen have to kill somebody, so there's stakes. It just feels hollow. Like we don't know these people. They don't do a good job explaining them. They spend more time. If they'd spend a little bit more time getting to know those characters instead of Brendan, which we didn't really. You could have started Brendan's story on the top of that cliff as with a cop and a guy, and we didn't even have to know the rest of it. Like I doubt it's going to come into play. Like, oh, well, you were a kid and, like you dressed up for your prom. Like that's not going to come into play at all. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm reserving judgment on that till we see the second half.
He's not the cyber leader, right? I mean, we're not making that connection, or we don't think he is.
Well, we don't know.
You don't know. And, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and that is definitely 20th century Earth that he's in. So it's just not, it's not like that's Gallifrey.
It's on Wikipedia. It must be true.
I believe everything I read on the internet, Mr. Mike Gordon. As should you.
If it says it there, damn it, then
I do think they are making
canon.
An interesting parallel, and I think that might be what Chibnall's going for, is that the Cybermen take humans and they suppress their humanity, suppress their memories, and so that they can function as a Cyberman, right? I think it looks like Brendan might be the cyber leader guy, and if that's true, then that's that plays out. But if it's not, if it's a twist, it's like, oh, you thought he was a Cyberman, but no, he's actually a Time Lord, and the Time Lords are doing the same thing,
But I have trouble why would that bother the Master so much? Is what I'm wondering. He's crazy. Yeah.
He's crazy. He's kooky and crazy. Kooky and crazy is
he's altogether ooky.
So it's just
there's
it's
a lot
pretty
of
crazy. There's questions there, and when they were putting the harness on his head, we've got to start over. You've forgotten everything. I thought maybe this is all in that guy's, the cyber leader or whatever he is, his head, and this is how he became a Cyberman, and this is how he interpreted it. Or something.
See, we're thinking that's what I mean. I think this episode is implying that he's related to the Cybermen, but I think in the second episode we're going to find out. Oh no, he's the timeless child. Like there's a whole. It could go either way.
Yep.
Like he could either be, or it could be both.
The one thing I did see is that someone drew a parallel to what seems to be done to Brendan. When they put the device on him, and what how the 10th Doctor was reacting in Human Nature Family of Blood when you see a flashback to him applying the chameleon arch. And of course we have a chameleon arch this season already with Ruth. So that was definitely where my brain went at the end.
Huh.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But
yeah, or it could be option number C.
Yeah,
right. Or it could never be resolved at all.
Won't be resolved for another 3 seasons. Thanks, Chibnall.
Right, even Moffat tied up everything at the end of each individual season.
No, he didn't. No, he did not. There's still stuff that Moffat did that people are going, what?
Well, we do know that the next episode is called The Timeless Children, which I think for those people who are are saying that the theory is that this portal, leads them to Gallifrey to become Gallifreyans or Time Lords or whatever. I think that's where that kind of the title is a key clue as to that theory. But I submit that, unless it's handled very well, and Chibnall does not have a good track record of this, implying that the Gallifreyans are anything but Gallifreyans is going to lead to ruin. Like if they started off as humans, if they have some sort of relationships with Cybermen, if whatever, I think that's going to not go well. I don't trust them to present that in a way that would be acceptable to a lot of people.
Well, they still could have been going to Gallifrey, but not been Time Lords, because there were other
Gallifreyans living there. Because you remember in the Capaldi episode, he went and there were like farmers and people like that.
Right.
But I mean, I'm not saying that they're Time Lords; they're Gallifreyans, and to suggest that to make this like connection between Earth and Gallifrey even more like solid. Like, oh, well, there's, like Earthlings and humans actually help develop Gallifrey. I mean, I think that's, and the Doctor was raised by humans or something. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of places that could go. And I'm trying to think of one that would be like, okay. And
and you can't come up with one
based on the but I don't want to like oversell it, because if I do think of one that's okay, it probably is not going to be the one that Chibnall's going to sell it.
It could be your headcanon.
I've looked at 4,235 different endings, and only one turns out well.
All right, Dr. Strange.
So yeah, I think we have a lot to worry about, and I'm hoping we're gonna, be pleased next week, but I'm also realistic too. So
I think Felicity, you mentioned it too. Like it's one thing to change it up, but for change's sake.
Well, exactly, and that I don't want them to change all of Doctor Who mythos, and everything we've known over the last 56 years is wrong.
It's a lie.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Even though the master keeps
the master
he's such a reliable. So does the Doctor.
I'm willing to reserve judgment. I will be very interested to hear what everyone has to say next week.
You know what? Let's break a little bit of a rule. Felicity, do you want to come back again next
week?
Hell yeah. Okay. Yeah,
that seems only fair.
It does. Let's just have the same crew next week, and so that way we can. Do you guys want to hold off from rating this until next week? Also,
I mean, there's not much to rate.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because it's so open ended that it's very hard.
Exactly, and I think that's what we're going to do this week. So, basically. Here's hoping that next week is keep your fingers crossed,
keep your
folks.
Fingers crossed.
Basically from myself, Mike, Felicity, and Mary, thank you guys for listening. Basically, we will see you guys next week. If you have any comments and thoughts on this one, please write us at earthstationwho@esonetwork.com. We definitely would love to hear from you guys. But until next week, we will see you all then. Peace. And we're done. Boom.
Ooh, see, we left it on a cliffhanger.
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You can subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.